let's talk about what I read in September. Hello, fellow book nerds. This is Gabby, and today I'm coming at you with a wrap up. It's been a while since I wrapped up, and the funniest thing is, I filmed like 3 wrap ups. I just never had the will to edit them because they were so long. But since September was a decent month, but not a crazy one, I read 8 books. I thought hopefully I'll edit this one and we can chat about it. There's some interesting books, lots of 4 stars, so I'm hoping to figure out with you, were they all 4 star or do I need to like pivot? But let's mix it up, and this time we'll start with my most highly rated books and we'll go down all the way to a 2 star. And I never really give anything below 3 or 2.5 if I really don't like it. So hopefully there's a ranting coming. So first 5 star book I read was such a weird like surprise, but I would recommend it like 100% for you to read as well. It's called Reign and Ruin by J.D. Evans. So this is the first book in the Mages of the Wheel series, which is like a fantasy romance series. So in Reign and Ruin, we follow Sultan's daughter, so Sultana, who is getting ready to take over from her father, who's falling to an illness, and she has to marry in order to be able to, I guess, for her husband to be the sultan, but she wants to be the sultan. She doesn't want to get married. She wants to rule on her own. And then in a ploy to kind of strengthen, is that how you say it? Her power, she sends a missile to a neighboring kingdom that they've been at war with her kingdom for ages, or like at least not, if not at war, extremely hostile. And she sends a message to them saying that they should become allies to avoid this bigger war that's brewing on the horizon. And then on the other hand, we have the other kingdom, and we have their rulers, kings, whatever's brother, and he wants to make this allyship happen, so he goes and travels to this kingdom and negotiations start. It's got a very interesting magic system. It's kind of similar to Wheel of Time in the sense that they believe in the pattern, and there's a big wheel, and the time is wheel, and that kind of background to the beliefs of the people. But the powers they have, oh my god, I'm totally forgetting what their powers actually are. But there's like death mages. That's all I remember about it. It's got, I've read this like a beginning of September. I think I might have read this in like a day. Like it was, yeah, I read this in a day. This book was really good. I think the chemistry between the 2 leads was amazing. Really just had you like clutching your heart, and I was so into it. I really want to continue with the series. I think it's kind of like not quite a companion series, but we follow different couples, while there's also a big overarching plot. So yeah, I really like this. Hanan gave me the recommendation, so thank you so much. And I gave it 5 stars, and I would highly recommend you to read it. The only other 5 star of the month was Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. So this is book 3 in the Hunger Games. If you don't know what Hunger Games are about, it's a dystopian world where country of Panem is divided into 12 districts and the capital is kind of the ruling government body, I guess. The district life is miserable, and once a year they put 2 children from each district into an arena and make them fight to the death. I would assume you're familiar with Hunger Games. If you aren't, if you're for whatever reason too young for it, too old for it, I don't know. This is the series of my childhood alongside with Twilight. I've reread this. This is my 3rd reread, I think, or 2nd reread. Yeah, I think I reread this once, and now I'm rereading it for the 2nd time. It's just so good. It stands up amazingly. I think the themes and everything that's discussed is so poignant and profound and makes you think. You can tell that the author had something to say writing this. I'm rereading this with Hanan because we are doing, we're gonna go see together The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So we've been reading one Hunger Games book a month. They're all 5 stars, and I'm gonna reread for the first time Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes next month. So I'm excited for that, but in the meantime, Mockingjay was 5 stars. I just think it's such a good series, and if people don't like it, I don't get it. Okay, then on to our 4 stars. So let's see, which one do I want to talk about first? You know what? Let's talk about The Devil Makes Free by Tori Bovalino. Because I actually think this is like 4.5. Like, I really like this book. So this one is a contemporary kind of paranormal fantasy slash horror. We follow a girl who along with her sister, starts a year at a boarding school, kind of halfway through the year, and it's the summer now. And she ends up working in the library to kind of make up what she can't pay in tuition. And she's this brilliant violinist. And then we have other main character. He is the son of the headmaster of the school, and his mother is dying in England. But his father kind of says, like, if you want me to keep paying for your mother's expensive hospital bills, better come here for the summer, hang out with me. So you know he's a great person. The father, I mean. But yeah, so he comes over for the summer, and he's really interested in occult. He wants to learn more magic because he can access some magic, but he wants to learn more. And this library has like a bunch of grimoires, so he takes out some of the grimoires, and the main character, the female main character, is like his librarian, I guess. I'm not telling this very well. At some point or there, kind of release the devil without knowing. And this book is really, really tense. I feel like it did a really good job of like building suspense and threading through different themes with what's happening, and the characters were really interesting, and I really, really liked the relationship. I thought it was super cute. So yeah, I was just like really into this audiobook. I couldn't put it down. I really wanted to keep reading, which doesn't always happen with audiobooks. So I had a great time. I would recommend, if you enjoy like, I don't want to call this dark academia because it's not, but if you enjoy like a boarding school with darkness vibes, check it out. I think it's definitely worth your time. The audiobook's well performed, and it's got like interesting things about, you know, ambition and power and letting go, and children becoming adults too early. Like, it's just really good. I gave it 4 stars, but like I said, it could be even a 4.5. Like, it was really, really, really enjoyable. The next book that I want to talk about is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. So this book is first book in the latest series that I'm reading with Read Along Queens. So if you don't know, Read Along Queens is kind of a read along buddy circle group that I belong to, with myself, Kira, Femke, Esme, Sasha. They're all part of this read along club, and we always read different series together. And we just read The Bone Shard Daughter and talked about it like yesterday for when I'm recording this, but when you're seeing this, like a couple weeks ago. And I can link the live show down below or up here if you want to check it out. But essentially, The Bone Shard Daughter is a fantasy. We follow the emperor's daughter. So in this world, the magic is based on bone magic. So every citizen of this country submits to have a bone shard taken from like behind their ear, and they take that bone shard, and then the emperor can perform magic with it. So he can make these things called constructs. So just like imagine like a cobbled together animal type thing, but it's fueled by these bone shards, and the bone shards drain life force of whoever they were taken from. So there's a lot of rebellion stewing. There's a lot of resistance in this world to this practice, and the main character has to kind of find her place within her father's court. She has to earn her place to become the next emperor. We also follow Jovis, who's like a smuggler trying to save the children from this procedure. And overall, it's quite a big world, quite a complex one. I enjoyed this book. I thought it was really fun, super interesting world and magic system. I wanted a little bit more from it because it was slightly on the softer side, but it definitely set everything up to be really interesting. So I'm really curious to see what next books in the series bring. And we're going to be talking about all of them. We're talking about book 2 in October, and then book 3 in November. So I would encourage you to come join us. I found it a really easy read. So I gave it 4 stars, and I'm excited for book 2. Then let's talk about the last 4-star, which is Mammoths at the Gates by Nghi. So this is the newest book in the Singing Hills Cycle series. So this is book 4. If you don't know what the series is about, the first book was Empress of Salt and Fortune, and Tiger Came Down the Mountain is book 2. I don't remember book 3 actually, but essentially what this series is a series of novellas that are loosely kind of connected. You could kind of just start whatever you wanted. It's not super strict and continuous story. But in general, we follow a cleric called Chu who comes from Singing Hills Abbey, and they travel the world to find different stories and write them down and preserve them for future generations. And slowly we kind of get to know the cleric more and learn more about their perspective rather than just discovering history with them. Each book is kind of like its own little moral, and that made it sound really childish. I mean, it's like an adult, but I would call it almost like a, like a proverb, or I don't remember the word for it, but when there's like a story with like a moral takeaway, it's definitely that. It's queer because the main character is non-binary, and it's a very, very interesting world. So I would highly recommend this series if you haven't picked it up. I will say I liked Mammoths at the Gates. It's not my favorite. I think Empress of Salt and Fortune is my favorite, but that being said, I still found it an enjoyable time and I learned something. And I thought that something particularly interesting about this book was that it talked a little bit more about the queer element of it, the non-binary element of it. There was a lot of like queer romances in the previous one, but this is the first time we examined the non-binary nature of the abbey and the clerics. It was a really interesting look into like almost like dead naming and transness and transitioning without naming those words and making it super explicit. So yeah, really, really good read, and I would highly recommend. All right, then let's talk about the only 3-star of the month, which is Bacchanal by Veronica G. Henry. So this offer, I also read something else from them, which was The Quarter Storm. So this is actually Offer's debut. So in this debut, we follow a carnival. We follow a young girl who has kind of like a superpower, I guess, like a special magical power. She can talk to the animals and she can kind of compel them to do what she wants, but they're just as likely to die as do her bidding. So it's quite tricky. But we follow her joining a carnival, and this carnival has a dark underbelly. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the other book, The Quarter Storm. I especially really enjoyed the beginning. I thought that the setup for it was like really interesting, and there was a lot of really distinct and interesting characters, and there was this like sinister nature to the carnival that was portrayed really well. So I enjoyed all of those things, but I just feel like towards the end it just really petered out and lost all of its momentum and interest that I had in it. It just felt a little rushed, anticlimactic. Important bits were just kind of talked about in afterward. It was just a little bit disappointing. So I'm not sure I'll be picking up anything else from the offer, if I'm being honest. It's an interesting world she usually comes back to. It's a lot of like voodoo magic, and the book 2 is about voodoo magic, and this one also has a lot of inspiration from like African roots and magic systems and creatures and gods. So that part is like super interesting. It's just something about the writing where the both books actually had me in the beginning. I was super engaged, I was super interested, intrigued, wanted to keep going, and then somehow by the end I was just left a little bit disappointed and a little like feeling really meh. And I don't want to feel meh about books I read. So that's why the book 2, I was like, okay, it started so well, let me like try another book by the author to see whether she can bring it home that time. And I feel like the same issue happened. So I probably don't need to pick up another book unless it sounds so absolutely like really, really interesting that I just need to. And maybe I'll be wrong, and maybe I'll love that one. But yeah, I gave it 3 stars. And then for a book I didn't like, which was Last Tang Standing by Lauren Ho. So this one I had definitely wrong expectations. I thought this was a romance novel or a rom-com because that's what everyone said, that it was a rom-com. And I guess it is in the same way. It's a very similar book to Bridget Jones' Diaries, which it wears on its sleeve. It's like Bridget Jones' Diaries meets Crazy Rich Asians. It's like the tagline for it. And we follow a Malaysian character who's living in Singapore and living her like single life. But she's in her 30s, I think 33 or something, and she feels that the biggest dishonor to bring on her family, and everyone makes it seem like the biggest dishonor to bring on her family is not to have been partner up and have children by the age of 30, whatever she is. There's a lot of judgment, and it's her like dating life, so she like dates several men, and it feels very Bridget Jones' Diaries because this is also written like a diary. And I was expecting a rom-com, and honestly I expected it to be funny because everyone and their mother in their comments said, in their review said, I've laughed so hard. I laughed the most I've laughed in ages. Like just laugh, laugh, laugh. Like I'm gonna be pissing my pants. I think I chuckled not one time. I probably exhaled through my nose, and I probably did that a couple times. But I just found the main character firstly insufferable, really judgmental, and really, really just snappy. And I've never read Bridget Jones' Diaries. I will say I find the movies really charming. Maybe if I was in the main character's head, I would like not find it so charming. But I guess how Bridget Jones' Diaries has like phobia problems, this one has racism problems. There's a lot of really, really, really judgy and racist characters, and the main character like kind of attempts to question it or like says she doesn't agree with it, but it's never really like questioned or anything like that. So that was one part of it which I did enjoy. But then just like the main character herself, I found her incredibly insufferable. I don't know how people deal with her. Like, oh my god, talk about an unpleasant personality. Like, I'm sorry, I just really did not like the character. I don't even find the romance particularly charming because, well, I don't think it's a spoiler. This is pretty obvious from the get-go, but like the guy's got a fiance and the main character has no morals. Like, she's never concerned about this is morally wrong because this is cheating. Not that they cheat. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they did or didn't. It's just like in her head, she's pining for this man. But the reason she's like, oh no, it's more like, oh, he's not interested in me. Rather than like, even if he is, this is wrong because this is cheating on a fiance. It's just, I don't know. I just like, I didn't enjoy it. I did not find it funny. I don't understand why people thought it was funny. I mean, I guess if you have a particular type of humor, this would be funny, but it's just not my type of humor. And I'm super disappointed because I thought, oh, this will be a little bit like Dial A for Aunties. I thought it would be like that one. I love that book. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Like, I laughed out loud listening to it on the tube. Like, I embarrassed myself for that book. And that's a book that's funny. But this book was just okay. All right, and then the last book I read was The Pain Gap: How Sexism and Racism in Healthcare Kill Women. So this is a nonfiction, exactly what the title says, about sexism and racism in healthcare industry. Really poignant. I thought it brought up some interesting points. It was mostly about people sharing their experiences, which are obviously incredibly traumatic. I do feel like maybe I prefer nonfictions where there's more stats and like you learn things more objectively, but subjective accounts are also really important, so I don't want to take away from that. So I ended up not rating this book. I do think it's very valuable if you know nothing about sexism and racism in healthcare, and mortality rates for different races, and also like the research, how research works, how women never really got considered. Like, I would still recommend this. I mean, my favorite book in this type of thing was All Invisible Woman. That's always what I come back to because I just think about that book a lot. But it was enjoyable, and no, sorry, it wasn't enjoyable. It was actually pretty terrible, but it was like terrible in a insightful way. So I would still recommend it. All right, we managed to finish this one kind of a good time. I don't know, all my videos clock in around 20 minutes. I'm like, doesn't anyone want to sit here and listen to me for 20 minutes? I don't know. I always get a headache at the end of it, but I can't be stopped because I just love talking to you. So let me know, what was your favorite book of the month? What was your least favorite book of the month? I think pretty clear that my least favorite book was The Last Tang Standing. My favorite book though, the 2 5 stars, Mockingjay and Reign and Ruin. I think Mockingjay is gonna take this one. I mean, it's just the longevity that it has in my mind and our minds as a collective. It's amazing. But yeah, absolutely loved it. Let me know what was best and worst book you read in the month. Let me know how many books you read. Let me know all the information. I want to know. Let's chat in the comments. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned, let me know what you thought about them. Always, always curious to hear what you think. But yeah, that's it from me. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you could comment, like, and subscribe, I really, really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!